All rise for the pledge. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Notations of the exits in the front and the rear. Any electronic device, please put it on vibrate.
Call the roll.
Are you going to go? Yeah. Come on, what are you doing?
Councilman Alvarez.
Here.
Councilwoman Eckhart.
Here.
Councilwoman Hudak.
Here.
Councilman Ward.
Here.
And Supervisor Hay.
Here. Okay, any electronic device, please put it on vibrate. First item on the agenda is a public hearing for Chapter 72 of the Farmers Market. We made some slight changes to that based on some recommendations by the County Ag District. And I'll make a motion that we waive the reading of the notice and open the public hearing. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone here this evening to speak to this? Seeing none, I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, the work session. First item is discussion road names, Roth subdivision. Lori, do you want to participate since you came up with most of the names and did all the work? We don't want to steal your thunder. And the lightning's in the back. Welcome back, Peter.
So the next couple of items, next three, are all along the same vein. It's come to my attention as the assessor and the E911 local coordinator that there are upcoming projects before the planning board that need to establish road names, whether they're going to be public or private, and that needs to get, any new road names need to be approved by the town board. So I was looking to have these on for discussion and then approval in the next meeting, so that by the time the planning board goes to file both the Roth subdivision, which is the first one under discussion, and they've agreed to Pear Court, and that comes in off of Acorn in the Springhouse subdivision. The project after that, item 2, is the Baker Farm
Why don't we
subdivision.
let's just
Wanna
do
do
one
one
at a
at a
time and get it done. Not
Okay.
so much. Anyone have any comment about Paracourt? Okay, go to number 2.
So the second one is the Baker Farm subdivision, which is also before the planning board. And again, trying to get a name approved by the town board so that the engineers and et cetera for the applicant can include it on the final subdivision and map before they file it with the county. But all of these I've coordinated with the Putnam County Emergency Services so that there's no duplication of any road names either within the town or within the county for emergency services personnel. So for the Baker Farm subdivision, it was agreed to make that Enoch Lane. That's going to be 3 lots coming in off of the first section of Enoch Crosby before you get to the Crosby Hill subdivision. It will be up on the right. So that's that one.
Okay, hold on.
I actually have a question for you.
Sure.
I have no problem with the name, and I love historic names, but why is it that sometimes it's too close to another road and
So-
sometimes it's not?
Yeah, so ultimately, they probably would have preferred something other than Enoch Lane. There's 2 rules of thought. One is, if you have something like that off of Enoch Crosby, it's
Right.
kind of a no-brainer as to where it is.
Right.
By the same token, if you have people responding that are not familiar with the area, they don't want to potentially be in the wrong place. But since this is a very small 3-lot subdivision and Alish Lane is just below that, we
Right.
thought we'd go with Enoch Lane and in keeping with the historical area naming. So that was kind of the exception to the rule.
Okay. That's fine, that answers that, thank
That's
you.
okay, because I have a similar answer for the next question.
Okay, so
Next
number
project.
3 is private road off of Birch Hill Road.
Right, so that, it was a late 1980s subdivision. It's currently 3 or 4 lots that are accessed off of Birch Hill Road, which is the south end of town, and it's really a common driveway. But because there's 3 lots in there, and the lot that is still vacant that fronts Birch Hill Road will be accessed off of that common driveway, it was determined that it really should have its own private road name. And while I would have loved to have called it Birch Lane or Birch Hill Lane, too close, too similar. So in keeping with the other 2 smaller roads that are off of Birch Hill Road, we've got Highview Terrace and Riverview, I think it is.
I think
Riverview. We thought we'd go with a terrace for that, and trying to keep the aesthetics in mind. I thought, well, not Mountain View, you have a Mountain View, not Village View, no. So we went with Trail View because you've got the walking trail now along what was the old Brady Farm access on the other side of the reservoir. So that's what we came up with for that one.
Okay. I don't think any of us have a problem with the name, so we'll get that ready for the next
Yeah, that'd be
meeting.
great if you guys could approve those at the next town board meeting. Then Putnam County Emergency Services will send the official letters to the various individuals that are impacted by those.
Now, just so everyone knows, the meeting we're going to read shortly is on September 6th. Originally, we had it for the 13th, but because of the primary this year, it's being moved to the 13th. They kept it away from the 11th because of September 11th. So it's on Thursday, which is weird as well. It's not a Tuesday.
Well, yeah, they've done it before, so.
So, anyway, so the bottom, we're going to do it on September 6th, so it's 1 week.
Which is a week from, okay, so I will not be here. If you could just put that on and approve
Yeah.
those, that'd be great, and I'll get the resolutions when I
Yep,
get back.
we'll do that.
Awesome, thank you.
Okay. Okay, number 4, discussion, town facilities policy. Both Lynn and Will did a bunch of the work on that. I did a little. Lynn, do you want to discuss it briefly? And if Will wants to have some input into this, as to the rationale?
What I thought was important is that on town-owned property, there'd be no private companies storing anything. We were concerned about political entities doing business on town property. And this had been actually, and will have to correct me or actually educate us, when was the original? This was drafted but never,
It was drafted, I believe, in 2010 or 2011.
right, but it was never passed.
And it was to follow up, the town board did a protocol to determine how and when this particular room as a public assembly could be used. And the original draft of that was done soon after we adopted the resolution establishing the protocol for the use of this room. And for whatever reason, it was never acted upon. I guess there was not a huge movement at the time to finalize the matter. So as a result of some recent experiences, it was felt that it was probably time to revive it and to sharpen it up. And I provided you with the initial draft, and you've given some good feedback on it. And again, we'd be adopting it as a policy, not as a local law or ordinance.
Right.
So it's really just a guidance more than anything else. And I think it's meant to advise all town officials and employees that if there's going to be any use of any town-owned property for whatever reason, it's got to go through the town board.
So I thought it would make for a good guideline, and just because there have been some problems, I think it clarifies everything nicely. But I'd love to hear everybody, any additions, any subtractions, any other ideas. I think we're completely open. I'm completely open to. I'm sure I forgot something. So I don't know how the rest of the board feels about it.
No, I read it, made this, a couple of the minor changes that were put into it, so it's pretty straightforward.
I think the only thing that needs to be probably honed down a little bit is that there is that one provision about political use of town facilities. And as you pointed out, there are a lot of uses of that like a political committee would put a thing to that is not a fundraiser or something to
A caucus or...
well, caucuses, believe it or not, the town board could hold a caucus.
Okay.
So that's a use, when I say the town board, the Democratic contingent could hold their caucus.
They do all the
You could
time.
hold your caucus, and that should really, you shouldn't have any problem doing that in
Oh, that's not
a town property. But I think you're talking about a political caucus, which
Like the
has-
Village of Brewster has had political caucuses.
Right.
And
And they do them in the village?
No, it was interesting, that we used to do them in the Boondog, if anyone remembers, but we could not do them at the time in Town Hall down, when 67 Main, or, so it was, I think everyone used a public space, which was a little awkward because anyone could come in, but
Right.
it worked out really quite well. They haven't had a caucus for years because they do elections a little differently, but one could still be held this year, actually. So-
I think the Conservative Party still holds
Yes.
caucuses versus doing petition drives.
Right.
And I know that the Conservatives have done their caucuses in public spaces, not when I say public spaces, not a municipally owned space.
Right.
But one of the things that I think did come up in our analysis of this was that, and you pointed this out, is that I know that the Republican Party has held candidates meetings where they would interview candidates, and they've used Lakeview Manor, and I believe paid a use fee
Yes.
for that, and where that's not an event that's actually promoting any particular party or candidate. It could be something that would be a revenue generator for the town, but it's certainly up to this town board as to whether they want to make it cut and dried. It did make it clear, though, in that draft that having a Republican picnic at a town park,
Right.
as long as the facility fee was paid, was not a problem, or a Democratic picnic,
Right.
for that matter, or a conservative picnic.
Right, right.
Should a fee structure been set up in advance so that?
They already are.
Okay.
So let me just ask, first of all, in the second whereas, third line down, it says private or commercial purposed. So that should be purpose, just knock out the D. But, so what would be considered in resolve number 1, a private purpose? What would be a private purpose?
Something that's not a municipal-based purpose.
Yeah,
Okay,
I
so
can.
give me
I-
an example. What's a private purpose?
I believe, and that there might have, that there was a private entity that was storing equipment at the highway department, and I don't know what if there was compensation involved. I don't know very much about it at all, but that is something that the town would want to be very wary of, because there could be a lot of contractors or a lot of people who might want to store things on town property. So that would be something I would want to be very wary of, certainly. I don't know how the rest of the board feels, but I think there's the appearance, or can be the appearance of impropriety, unless it's very brief, it's for, storage, which actually is the next topic I'd like to discuss, but of storage of materials for a particular project, I think that's a lot different. And that can save us, the town, money by storing materials before we have to use them.
But that would be town material, so that's not really a
Yes,
private purpose.
Exactly. My
So-
concern is a private company of anywhere, of any sort, even if it was through special districts or, I'm very leery of that.
Do we know any time, so that was the only time? I'm trying to just figure
There
out,
could be other times.
what's a commercial purpose then? What's a commercial purpose? How do we define that?
Well, I think any
Business.
somebody's operating a business from town property.
Private or commercial, it just seems like, so have we had that happen?
Well, I think what Lynn has alluded to is that for a relatively long period of time, there's been a private company storing equipment on the highway lot. And also, it appears they've been bringing in fill from points unknown and storing it there and then removing it.
Yeah, and I would be concerned too, this has never happened to my knowledge, Liz, but another example might be someone, because sometimes a lot of wood is dumped there, so someone who has a wood, sells cord wood and says, can I just leave my truck here for a week or two or something? I think something like that would be very problematic, because it would show some kind of favoritism, so those are the kind of things I'm concerned about.
Okay, and then it's No town, once again in paragraph 1, no town-owned property, structure, building, facility, room, place, park, or recreation venue shall be used for any private or commercial purpose without having first obtained permission of the town board. Then you have on 2, except for requests to use or utilize the town-owned facilities which are currently under the jurisdiction of the Recreation Department.
Yeah.
So if someone wants to use the ball field, let's say.
They go through the Recreation Department.
They go to recreation, but if that is the Democratic committee, then they can't use that field if recreation
I
says
think
no?
If it's a park,
Then, yeah.
if they're using a park for a picnic, I think that is still under the jurisdiction of the Recreation Department.
Okay, then the recreation department handles it the way that they would handle it if it was
The Boy Scouts,
the Boy Scouts.
correct.
So they wouldn't have to post $1 million to $3 million bond or,
I think we do have certain insurance requirements if somebody uses our property.
okay, but it wouldn't be an insurance requirement in accordance with this resolution, correct?
I think there are different standards by which we, I'd have to check that, to tell you the truth.
Right.
If someone uses our facility, and a matter of fact, I sent out a letter today to Little League to verify
Yeah.
how their contract and their insurance policy list, whatever. But if someone were to come in, they have to basically not self-insure, but insure the town as an additional insured if they're using our facility. So if someone wants to come and play a softball game on our facility, a women's league, okay? Even with the recreation department, they come in, they must provide the town with that particular policy. That's what that's about, mostly.
And how would we distinguish a, quote, casual use of town parks and related recreation facilities as not being a private or a commercial purpose? So how do you differentiate
If somebody were
casual?
to put a,
Guys get
I
together.
can think of one right now, is over Earth Day weekend, we had a person who, and it was free to everyone, and they had to post the $1 million or whatever bond, but, or proof of insurance, a certificate, and they did a puppet show at the gazebo near,
So you consider that to be a casual use, not a private use?
it was open to every, yeah, I mean, that.
Oh, okay, but what I'm saying is I don't know if there's someone out there that might say that's a private use and therefore governed by this instead of a casual use. See, I think that the issue is really with me is definitions. What's the difference between a casual use of anything? So can the Conservative Party say, we're just casually using this park for a puppet show, and in the meantime, we're gonna have some hot dogs cooked over there?
That could be done.
Yeah,
So that would mean then that Conservative Party is not bound by this resolution.
No.
I don't know. It just seems like it should be, I don't know.
In other words, it's not.
To me, it's not really as definite and firm and clear as one might think,
Okay.
what I'm looking at right now.
You have some
So
language
you
you
would
can
want a
suggest?
definitions section?
Well, you really should have a definition section, but it's going to be very difficult to define casual, that completely, although I'm sure that there's somewhere that we can find what casual is. And then to say that no town-owned property, structure, et cetera, or recreation venue, but oh, by the way, if you are going to use a recreation venue, forget about this, go to the recreation department. But I don't know what recreation means either. I mean, I think I know what you're saying. What you're really, I think, going for is what you initially said. I don't want a private company to use a town facility as a holding, storage, whatever the heck it is. And I think that probably, maybe we can just hone in on, because I think that's really what this is about. I really think that this is more about private companies using private, commercial, for-profit companies, or maybe not-for-profit companies, using our facilities without us knowing. That's what I think. So I don't know, we're kind of throwing in a lot of other little pieces. And I still think that if you're going to involve, people, politics and political parties, we already learned our lesson with the sign ordinances, in terms of trying to limit that use. Although right now, if this resolution was passed, I would say, okay, come on, let's go to the park, set up a little stand, have a couple of puppets, and let's eat hot dogs. Hey, that's a casual use. We didn't have to tell you about that. That's what I'm thinking. And then you have we're going to ask Tony, right? Such requests, we're gonna go to Tony 3 weeks prior to the proposed event. Gonna use an application form,
Which they currently do.
which, fine.
Not so much
Provide
the-
names, whatever. But now, let's make believe that I want to put on that puppet show and someone says, well, that's not casual. I got to provide naming the town as an additional insured with not less than the combined policy limits of $1 million to $3 million.
And they did do that, so. it's-
How much would that cost, though, if I want to really do, I want a bunch of.
Your homeowners, your
I want
homeowners.
the neighbors up in your neighborhood. We all want to come together, just have, puppet show, whatever, but, someone doesn't like that. What they really want is like, it's not casual, that's not casual. Go out there and get $1 million to $3 million of naming an additional insured. So go get, Mr. Jones who owns, or Mrs. Jones who owns the ABC Insurance Company to give you that additional insured.
Most of them come off their homeowner's policy. That's where 95%.
But who's gonna do that? And then in the meantime, God forbid, little Johnny and little Mary are playing and they fall and now they're gonna sue.
Well, that's why we have it.
Well, true, but now you're gonna
that's why
ask
we
someone,
have
you're gonna ask someone from the neighborhood, hey, come on over. Ask your insurance company. I don't know. I think, I think this is kind of, I know what the intended use is, but I think it's somewhat gonna be difficult for, people to really use our facilities, and I mean, the parks, et cetera, and then you're gonna say, no, Liz, that's recreation. But I just wanna have that puppet show. And then you have a deposit of not less than 50% of the regularly scheduled usage fee for
Which
the
is not
particular
much.
venue. No, I know it's not, but like which particular venue, and, so that means town hall is out for anyone. So nobody's allowed to use town hall except for when we vote, because that's a municipal purpose. So this is not covered, right, voting? That's what
Right.
you're saying? So when they have the voting machines in town hall?
That's pursuant to a contract with the Board of Election.
But that's a municipal purpose.
But it's also pursuant to a contract with the Board of Election.
Okay, so we made a contract, but then now each year, does the Board of Elections have to come before us and say, oh, wait a second, we're gonna use this?
I think
I know
they-
we have a contract, but we have to use this place.
No, I think it's based on, it's driven by the contract.
Yeah, but now we have a resolution.
Well, they talk to
So-
Tony every year, don't they, Tony?
Yes, they do. They-
Yeah, but does the Board of Elections, we never had this resolution before, so even though there's a contract, now does the Board of Elections have to come to us, come to Tony 3 weeks before and fill this out and say, here is what it is, and we gotta give you the combined policy limits of $1.3 million, which I know you're gonna probably say may be in the contract already. And what's, well, there's no use to town hall, but other than us sitting here, the planning board and the court, this town hall can't be used for anything else, correct?
That's
been used-
under an entirely different policy. That's under which you were on the board when it was adopted.
Okay,
So
but I don't know if that says that here.
it
I-
does
I
say.
strongly recommend the word casual and that be taken out.
But I mean, right now it says no town-owned property shall be used for any private or commercial. So there's something else. So maybe we ought to reference what you're referencing and say, town hall, this town hall building can or cannot be used for in accordance with the prior.
You could ask, the town clerk will provide you with that resolution that was adopted. I believe you were on the board at the time, having to do with the.
But what I'm
the
saying
use
is
of this.
reference it in this resolution. So with the exception of, because that's already governed by resolution XYZ, then you would put that in here.
I think in the initial draft it was, and it was taken out.
Well, maybe put it back in again, because then right now, sitting here, I don't think anybody can use town hall except for what it's used for, unless it's a casual use, and you already said we better take that out. So casually, we're all gonna meet in here and take pictures. Well, I think that's pretty casual. Well, okay, then,
Okay, now you just hit on one about casual.
Sure.
We do weddings here.
well, apparently we can't do that anymore unless they go 3 weeks ahead of time.
Well, they do with Michelle.
Three weeks ahead of time?
Oh, God, a month and a year, some of them.
All I know
Except
is,
for me.
if someone's in a rush, my friend, you getting married, Tony?
No.
Oh, shucks. I would've paid for the flowers, all 3 of them. So, so that, I mean, okay, so now they want to use town hall for a wedding. Does that mean they got to come to you and
They
provide?
don't provide insurance, no.
Well, that's, might be what's in here.
Well, they come and they perform the ceremony. They don't have receptions here.
And we also use it for court. What do we do for courts?
No, court is different, because that's, our town is allowed to use this for courts. That's
Oh.
obvious.
And as I said, I think that if you would look at the protocol that was adopted in 2011 or 2010, regarding the use of this room, which was adopted in response to attempts to use it for political purposes. You'll see that most of those things are
I
covered.
remember it well.
I'm sure you do.
So,
You have a big check for it too, right?
what? The big check. Yeah, the big check. So my thinking right now is then that has to be put in here somewhere, because if I wanted to get married, which, don't worry, Kevin, I'm not divorcing you, but if I wanted to get married, then I think this would create an issue. Although obviously, no one's going to be running around
It was
and
not
will.
the intention.
Of course not.
To change the policy that's in place for this building.
No problem. What I'm saying to you is that, right now, looking at, this is a work in progress, I would assume. We're not voting
Yeah,
on
of
it
course.
tonight. So I'm giving you my thoughts. So the bottom line is that should be pointed out. And the foregoing shall apply to all members of the public, including commercial entities. I don't know who isn't a member of the public. I don't know. Is there any member of the private? So, and the grant of access shall constitute a license and not a lease. That's great. Or, you know, what is that, gratuitous bailee that we learned in law school? So now we have any person, firm, or entity that attempts to occupy, use a town-owned facility, not less than 500, no more than 1,000 for each offense. Is this something that we can do in a resolution?
I've
Okay,
explained that to the supervisor and to Ms. Eckhart, that you cannot have
Okay.
penal items
Right.
in a resolution. You have to adopt it by a local law
Yeah.
or an ordinance,
right.
and that would be something going forward.
Right. So, and now you have, it can't be used for any political purpose whatsoever. And all I'll say is, my recollection is when we did the sign ordinance, and Victor Grossman, who's now Judge Grossman, gave a very good analysis of how you can't really limit political signs. You know, it was a great showing and et cetera, but, and then ultimately, you know, he was proven to be right. So I don't know if you can really
Well,
limit.
actually, that was litigated in federal court, Liz, and it may be, very well be what Mr. Judge Grossman had indicated in a state court action. But the federal court action was actually what knocked down our
Okay.
zoning code.
Right, whatever
our
it is.
sign ordinance, under the First Amendment. But if you're going to limit the use of certain buildings,
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that's going to find, for municipal building use for political purpose, I don't think you're going to find the same issue.
I don't, you see, what we're all saying, I don't think.
Well,
I'd
but
like
my-
to have a little more definiteness, not that I think that any, you know, I get it, like, you know, the old holding up the big check or taking a picture next to the seal and
Right.
slapping it on your palm card, I get it.
Well, and my goal is so that everyone, everyone will be treated equally. No one gets a different, you know, everyone pays the same, everyone,
Level playing field.
Yeah, no,
Yes,
true, but,
exactly.
and that's a great idea, except that you want to make certain that it's properly espoused in the resolution and/or ultimately the,
Would you agree that it would be probably improper use of public property to have a fundraiser in this room
sure.
or in any town?
I would,
property?
I agree. I don't want anything political in this room.
Okay.
I've,
Well, what about
I think
Lakeview
that's what
Manor?
we originally did, but, and, you know, when you said that it lost the momentum or
well,
whatever.
where it gets very hazy, and it did before, is, it really did, because I think a lot of people, Studio Around the Corner was an example of a thorny issue, because it's leased by someone, by Studio Around the Corner, Brewster Coalition.
Cultural Arts Coalition.
Yeah, but it's still, I don't believe they allow political events there, but it could be.
They tried to have them at one
Yeah.
time, and they were told that it
Right.
violated their lease.
Right, so,
So that's what would make me, maybe if you would just,
well, you could, if you don't, if you would do some work on this, that would be great, and send it to us, how you'd like to see it revised. I think that would be very helpful.
I sent you a copy of that in Word if you're so
okay,
inclined.
why
I
not?
mean, I don't think anyone's wedded to this at all.
Oh,
It
of
was-
course not. Well,
put out
believe me, that's why I'm making comments, because quite frankly, you know, this is, I think, when we're supposed to make comments. But no town officer or employee shall enter into any agreement, written or verbal, with any third party. Well, heck, I think the only town officer, unless I'm wrong, that could do that is Tony.
What? Do what?
shall enter into any agreement or understanding, written or verbal, with any third party for the use or occupancy. So it's only Tony, who would be the,
It's got to be approved by the town board according to that rubric.
yeah, but it says no town officer or employee shall enter any agreement without the prior written approval of the board. So it's only Tony that could probably do that, right?
Do what?
Enter into any agreement or understanding with any third party without the prior written approval. So Tony, don't do that, okay?
With regard to the use of town property, I think Tony still has to get the approval of the town.
No, it does say that. I'm just saying is there anyone else other than Tony who is a town officer or?
Say the supervisor, I'm always.
Oh, I'm sorry. The town supervisor. So I think maybe, okay, why don't you send it to me? Why not?
Well, I mean, we have other officers that deal with outside entities. We have,
Recreation.
facilities use manager, we have a highway superintendent.
Well, that's what I'm, could the highway or the recreation person enter into an
I
agreement?
would say, I would argue legally, no.
No.
Right, okay, that's it. That's what I was wondering. And then the town board may approve or in its discretion may reject the facility use for good cause shown. Okay. The type or use or function. So this wouldn't apply if someone wanted to use any recreation. Any recreational area, this doesn't apply. So that still goes under recreation. Okay.
Which almost, probably, right now, probably 95% of what the usage is
Yep.
all recreational.
That's what I was
They want to use
thinking.
a fuel for an Easter egg
Yep.
hunt, et
Got
cetera,
it.
et cetera.
Yep.
Now, some of them, you know, whether they're charged or not charged, sometimes there's a waiver of the fee, so to speak, but they still have to provide the insurance.
Okay, very good. All right, thank you.
Okay, so will send it to you in Word.
Got
You
it.
can send it to, obviously, all the board members should get a copy and go over
No,
it.
they will.
Make suggestions.
Yeah. Let Liz do her red line and share it with us, and
Right.
we can pick it up.
And, yeah, and we can certainly discuss this at the next meeting if people aren't ready to vote, that's fine, there's no huge
No, we'll
rush
put it
on
on
this.
for another one. I mean, it's
Yeah.
only actually, it's next week. You're gonna be ready?
I know, my sense would be, let's do some changes and then we'll talk about it again.
Yeah, so we
So
can
the
talk
next
about it at
meeting?
the next meeting.
Yep.
Okay,
Okay, that would be great.
good.
So-
I'll put it on for next meeting.
Thank you. Okay. Tony, could we waive the rules so we can have a discussion of staging material for the East of Hudson Brewster Heights project?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, I second.
Do I
it.
need to say, oh, you second.
Aye.
Okay.
Okay, go ahead. You received a,
Well, I was just concerned, again, I think I've gotten a lot of calls because there is a huge pile of material on, off Route 6, on Tree Haven, which is a property, a town-owned property. And it's for staging material, which is good that we have the material to use for, and it can save taxpayer money for the East of Hudson Brewster Heights project. There since has been a request to store topsoil at Sunset Park, Sunset Ridge. And so I thought it would be a good time for us to discuss this on staging material on town property, if anyone has any suggestions or if there are any problems. I mean, I want this material to be certified and make sure that it's all clean fill, and topsoil by nature is clean, but I just wanted to get feedback from the rest of the board and
okay,
see
well,
how
just
everyone
for
felt
the
about it.
public's knowledge, what's happening down by, well, it used to be called Tree Haven in the old days. Right now, it's 2366 Route 6.
On the middle
It used to be a
branch.
nursing home, it used to be a bar way back when, it used to be a home, I think, of the first county legislature possibly, in Southeast possibly.
The first county legislature?
One of the county
Town.
Town.
No, because they didn't have a county legislator.
No, that's
So
right, town, what, supervisor?
Could have been a chairman of the board of supervisors.
Yeah, anyway, it has a political connection. It's now town-owned
Yeah, that's
property
it.
too.
No more.
Okay, so anyway.
Throw that dirt off.
What's happening in Brewster Heights, there's been a drainage issue for a number of years. Brewster Heights was first brought in around 1956, and the water's been coming down off the hill all those years, and there's a trench down there about 20 feet deep. And part of the watershed and the East of Hudson policy is to try to help clean up the watershed, receive DEP approval, DEC approval, and what you see going on right now with the traffic being backed up as they're running the pipe underneath the reservoir. As the water goes in the reservoir, it's been untreated all these years, and this new piping and everything we're doing there is to make it that much better. So it's with everyone's approval. So what they're doing now is storing material being brought in. Now, I do have something that I want to add as to, before we say yes to whatever it is, and if we agree or don't agree, you can go accordingly. I'm asking, will anything other than topsoil be staged at Sunset Park? Because the request came in for topsoil. Now, I know the materials that I've seen is not topsoil. So if it's not topsoil and they want topsoil and something else, let them tell us what that may be. But right now, it's topsoil. If so, what other material fill we stage at Sunset Park if it's not just topsoil? Will the company, and it happens to be, I'll mention name, Brennan Construction, be the only contractor entity hauling in topsoil to Sunset Park? In other words, will this be the only company that's going in there? Because I'm hearing that there's other companies, but I just want to verify in writing that only Brennan Construction is the one that's hauling the material. If not, what other contractor entity would be hauling it in? If we haul it in, Town of Patterson, I mean, whoever hauls it in, we need to know who's hauling in the material. Will any of the hauling be subcontracted out? In other words, XYZ company has the contract, but are they going to ask ABC to bring stuff in, CDE? And if they do, we need to know who they are. And if so, will it come from the same source or location, the material itself? Right now, we don't know where the material is coming. So in this hearing, it's going to be asked, of course, is where is the material coming from? And usually there's a certification where the material comes from. Now, prior to hauling in the topsoil, please provide the source, location, and certification of the topsoil. Where did it come from? Now, I'm reading the paper probably down county, probably once every 3 months of some major contaminated site. They're digging up the fill, and it's just going out here, there, and everywhere, and we just want to make sure we're not the recipient of that. Not knowing, we just need to know the certification where it comes from, and again, the word has been used, topsoil. If it's not just topsoil, identify it. Prior to hauling in any other type of material, please provide the source, location, and certification. I'm requesting how many yards, truckloads, etc., topsoil will be brought to the site. I mean, are we going to get 100 truckloads, 1,000 truckloads? What's coming to that site? Will erosion control measures be taken and maintained to contain any runoff from the topsoil? Right now at Tree Haven, that's being done. We just want to make sure, because up at Sunset Ridge, it's much higher area and can do much more damage if it's just, washed down the hill, so to speak. So we got to make sure they have that control. Is the topsoil material fill being brought to Sunset Park come from the same source as the fill that's been being staged at 2366 Route 6, the Tree Haven property? In other words, we got a big pile there. Is this pile that's coming in now coming from the same source? And if it is, again, identify it. And I'm asking the question, at Tree Haven, did anyone other than that contractor haul material into 2366 Route 6? In other words, did someone other than Brennan, which is the company that has the contract with the EOHC, bring material there? What type of material did it bring? If so, by whom? How many yards, truckloads of material was brought to 2366, the Tree Haven property? So these are, I understand a lot of this information may be available, but before we give a go-ahead, and I know, Will, at one point in time, there was a request to bring some material, I guess it was grindings from the roads or something?
Millings.
Tailings, millings.
Millings. And you asked for some information prior to accepting it. So we need to know that the stuff is not contaminated, where it's coming from, how much we're going to receive. And it's not going to delay it. I mean, if you send this out tomorrow and ask for this information, the town engineer stopped in my office on the way home today. He usually stops every Thursday. I made him aware of my concerns, and he said that these can all be answered relatively easy enough. And once we get that, then we can give the go-ahead. We can do a straw poll by phone and just say it's a go. Once we
I
get
have one question.
Yes.
So the town is really not involved in this contract, other than the fact that it's this drainage being cut through our property, correct? So East of Hudson contracts with Brennan Construction. And so, and we're not a party to that contract.
We are not.
Okay. Other than our giving easements, I assume, which I haven't seen, to East of Hudson to run these pipes through our property,
Well, they got them from us, NISAC, New York State DOT,
a long time ago.
within the
Well, I
past 2
remember,
years.
I remember doing easements that went through Fian's property.
Yes.
And they're not going through Fian's property.
Yes, they are.
Or they still are?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
They're going through, Yedowitz is the house next to Bruins building, I know, it's still Bruins building.
But that's on the other side of the road.
Yeah, but there's two lines coming down.
Okay, okay.
One
well-
by Bruner Road and Wilson Road.
Okay, well,
and one by.
I don't
But I
recall
think-
seeing the easements that are coming through Tree Haven, to be honest with you.
It's not coming through Tree Haven.
That's just where the
There's
storage
no,
is.
there's no.
So that's just, why don't they stage the topsoil there too, if they're already staging the,
There's no room.
There's
there.
no more room.
There's no
Oh.
room for it.
okay. But again, if they're staging fill there, do they have any agreement with the town to allow them to stage fill there?
Written, I don't believe so.
I mean, I think your point is well taken, because my concern is if the town, if there's labor involved in this, whether it's carting it, sifting it, whatever we're doing, that should be on East of Hudson, not on, directly on our taxpayers, even though it's all taxpayer funded. Is that kind of what you mean, or no?
Well, no, I'm just
mean,
saying
because
that
it's-
they're already storing,
Yeah.
Right.
fill on our land. Apparently,
Right.
it's, I know this is all for the better good.
Right.
But if you're talking about concern about liability, you
Yes.
don't know where the fill is there now.
I mean, we're talking about, $1 million to $3 million for a puppet show, and right now, I don't even know what the heck is in that. I mean, we're all terming it fill, which is interesting, because I really don't know what, I'm just looking at the email that we had received.
Right, because I asked the question, and by the way, I just want you to know that I did talk to
Okay.
Superintendent Bruin today, too, and invited him tonight, but he did have a previous engagement.
Okay.
He did want to come, I think.
But
he
what
couldn't.
he's saying, what is being said, is that its topsoil will not be visible and poses no environmental impact. So, I don't know who says, I think we need some oversight on that, is what I'm saying.
Well,
But I don't
it
know.
does
The town
have, even though
engineer-
it's topsoil and may be certified, if they don't put in proper erosion control, it has an environmental
Oh,
impact.
of course. Yeah.
Well, what I'm saying is, how do we know it's topsoil?
Because
Well,
Mike
yeah, you
Bruin
want
says
it.
it's certified.
Well, yeah, I mean, yes, you're asking for certification, and that's what Tony's questions
Well,
are all about.
Yeah,
The town engineer does each week when he comes out to that site, and if it's put in this site as well, does review it on behalf of the town and on behalf of the
so
EOH,
each week?
each week,
So he's gonna do the same thing for this topsoil then?
yes.
Yeah,
I just want to verify that it's topsoil. Again, the other material,
Right.
where is it coming from? I understand the paperwork is going to be sent to us next week about the certification of where the material came from, and we just have to verify it, and that's it. And that's pretty much town engineer's responsibility.
And for example, today, when I talked to Tom Fenton, he explained that the erosion control, the fence had gone down on one section. There hadn't been any harm done, but it's been since corrected, and that's at Tree Haven. So he said
And
some of
with-
the silk fence had come down.
And we're paying Tom to do this, right?
Yes,
Meaning the town?
yes.
Okay, and then in terms of when Brennan Construction brings the, whatever it is in, so they, God forbid something happens to someone there, then do we have any insurance coverage that they're holding us harmless, et cetera, or that's just, since we're not part of this contract?
Good question.
I'm
Which
trying to-
again would be, going back to our previous discussion, it would be normally governed by something like that. If somebody wants to use our town property to stage fill for, even if it's a municipal project, they would have to get the approval and provide us with necessary
How did it appear there?
insurance to assure that we're not going to be, or that if somebody is, if it is a problem, then we have that insurance coverage in place. I think the East of Hudson has plenty of insurance. I don't know that for a fact. but
Right.
Tony, you are the
Unfortunately.
liaison to the East Hudson, so.
So stage fill for municipal purpose, see, that's all the little ins and outs, and, so that's all, yeah.
Yeah, see, again, it is covered by EOH. We did another project down by Lakeview, where we did the similar thing, and it's basically the same, so
But that was a town project.
this is too. Well, it's a town, well,
The one that was over on Shore Drive was done by,
no, that was
It was done-
EOH.
It was,
I thought it was Cassidy Contracting.
It was, but it
That
was
was
an
doing it with the
EOH
town.
project. Cassidy got that contract, Brennan got this one, because they bid on it. So the Lakeview one was done by Cassidy, and this one's being done by Brennan, and both are EOH projects.
Okay.
And in case there's any confusion about EOH, the acronyms, it's
East of the
east of the Hudson.
right.
It's part of the MS4 regulations. So,
Actually,
EOHWC,
Private
East of Hudson Board of State
no, it's a
Commission.
private corporation, but EOH is east of the Hudson, which is an acronym involved in the MS4 regulations.
So it is actually their program, so. If you need me to find something out, let me know, and I'll look it up for you,
Yeah.
find out.
Yeah, well, I guess the obvious concern is whether A, it's topsoil, B, if it's certified topsoil, if it isn't anything that contains any hazardous substances, and I suppose if Tom Fenton's out there every week, checking it out,
But he
then,
can't check, he's not checking to see if it, he's gonna
Right,
get
he can't- he's
certified
not
by
doing
the
a test.
contractor, supposed to certify the material.
oh, okay.
But
So,
if we're storing it, we should be compensated in some way, or are we compensated in services in kind? Does
Well,
EOH do things for us that they don't bill us for? And
Well,
shouldn't there be some contract?
I've
between us?
asked, I've basically to ask the question, like, there had to be, someone had to be either paying for the storage of it, paying to obtain it, and I have not gotten the answer to that yet. Peter?
Because we're paying Tom Fenton to make sure that it's
Exactly.
Well,
okay every week.
he's.
well, the EOA, this whole MS4 is,
So that should be
So-
billable back to them, or if EOH is doing stuff for us over and above well, okay.
Well,
the MS4, all those regulations and what the purposes are, and it's all very,
Well, EOH was formed for like a bubble compliance, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So that it
The
would.
town is a member of the
Right,
EOH
right.
Corporation,
but the,
and we contribute to it.
right, and so it's all very
it's being done.
incestuous.
Yeah, it's being on the auspices of
Right.
the EOHWC.
Right.
We're not directly involved, our town engineer is just double checking on behalf of
Right.
the town.
Right.
And we're very, very involved in a sense, not individually, but as the town
Right.
being one of 19 members of the corporation.
Right, right.
Peter?
Hi, Peter Bell. I was just wondering if there's any kind of agreement that they make sure that they put Sunset Park back the way it was. And I thought Sunset Park might be leased or something, access given to the Green Glass Building for parking lot.
We're still working on that.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that if
And
there's,
there's gonna be a contract with them, because the agreement with them to us is they're gonna bring it back to,
yeah, and I'm just curious that maybe if there's extra soil there that they graded out to help with what's gonna be a parking lot or an entrance. I'm just saying, there should be something in writing that they either put it back the way it was when this project is done, or that
well,
if there's excess
we have
fill.
it with the Tree Haven property, I don't see it with this one yet.
Because this is a new request as far as Sunset, but it's a good point, so. And
Okay, so you know what? We'll forward these questions,
Okay,
and then, once it's done, responded,
okay.
get them.
Yeah, I think it's really important because Brewster Heights gets all their
And run
water
it
out
by,
of the middle
when you
branch.
send it, just run it by Will before, Will, you'll be able to review it from Lynn, right?
We just pointed out that resolution. Was there a typographical error?
What are we talking about?
Will, when Lynn writes this up, you're gonna review it before it goes out for tomorrow, if it's possible? Or whatever, by
Okay.
Tuesday?
Whatever you need to.
Okay, whatever you need, Lynn. I'll forward this to you. and
Forward
then
it to me.
I'll go in accordance. Okay.
Thank you.
Make a motion now to go into the regular portion of the meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Waive the reading of the correspondence. Approval of the voucher list, $1,392,092.23. So move for discussion.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, set the meeting dates and public hearings. All meetings will be held at 1360 Route 22, Bristol, New York, at 7 PM unless otherwise noted. Like I said, the next meeting will be 1 week from tonight because of the primary, which would normally be on a Tuesday. This year it's on a Thursday, so we're having it a week earlier. So Thursday, September 6th, and Thursday, September 27th, 2018. So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Budget transfers, wait the reading of those. Number 5, resolution road names Terravis Senior Housing. Now therefore be resolved that private roads within Terravis Senior Housing Development are hereby named Crabapple, Elderberry, Redbud, and Magnolia, and the developer is authorized and directed to install necessary signage, green lettering with white background, designating such roads in form and manner as approved by the Highway Superintendent of the Town of Southeast. So move for discussion.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
And ladies and gentlemen, green lettering with white background is a town road. When it's white, no wait,
It's the opposite.
oh, these are private, right?
Yes.
Reverse, okay. So white lettering with green background is the opposite.
Yeah, and I just wanted to thank Lori. She put up with me on talking about these names, and,
That's put up with a lot too, by the way.
yeah, it is putting up with a lot, so thank you, Lori.
Lori and I spend, sorry, Peter, but her office is right across from me, and I swear to God, it's like, we're always in there doing something with road names, or
Yeah.
Kenny Clare coming over asking us to help, and very busy office. Is two offices. Okay, number 6, resolution, New York State DOT requesting Route 22 speed study. Now therefore be resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Southeast hereby requests that the New York State Department of Transportation conduct a speed limit study for the area of Route 22 from Interstate 684 terminus to Milltown Road, and be further resolved that the town clerk be and is hereby authorized and directed to forward a certified copy of this resolution to Regional Director of New York State Department of Transportation, Regional Traffic Safety Manager, and Mobility Group forthwith. So moved for discussion.
Second.
Okay, this came about back in 2015. I wrote a letter to the state about the speed out here. I did it again in 2016, and Lori followed up with a letter to them this year, and they asked that we do it by resolution so they know they have the support of not just one person, but all the persons. Route 22, since they've repaired it after about 30-something years, and the Milltown Road going from 2 lanes down to 1 is like, it's unbelievable. Now, I come in pretty early in the morning, and I'm telling you, from like 5:30 in the morning till 7:30, the trucks come rumbling down, what's that, Bridge Jake? What is that word they use? Jake break? Okay, when they're coming down, it's absolutely amazing. The speed limit out here is 35 miles an hour, but the only thing is, when you're coming from 684 on up and 80, it's 55, and then it drops immediately to 35. I think around Heidi's Motel, it should be dropped to 45, and then by the time Heidi's, and it comes just out here, it goes to 35, but they're going 55 to 35, doesn't happen, and I'm telling you, when they go from this end coming down, if they're doing a minimum of probably 50 miles an hour out here. We have a lot of people coming in, going in and out, you put your blinker on, I am telling you, the squeal on the brakes out there, there's been quite a few accidents, and we just want them to look at it. Can they do something to maybe, I mean, they set up radar out there from time to time, but it's a real problem with the traffic. It's really going way, way too fast. I don't think there's much they can do, but maybe they put up some warning lights. And La Manisa's at the top of the hill, people turning in there, or people coming out. It's really a problem. You have Heidi's Motel. I mean, 22 is a really, really busy road, and we think it needs help. So Lori, thanks for writing the letter. They asked for a resolution, and that's why it's here tonight. Any other?
I thought it was 55. Oops.
What's 55?
I thought that was the speed
I
limit
think
there.
going south, it's 55.
Not till you get past Town Hall.
Okay.
Yeah,
But
soon,
That's when I started, okay.
I know when we clean up 22, it's pretty amazing.
It's really scary out
Yeah.
there.
Yeah, it is. So we're gonna ask them again, but I'll tell you, they're on record. I sent, I think now 4 letters, identified what I consider hotspots. And I also mentioned over by Home Depot, that traffic light coming out that allows a right-hand turn. People don't stop. They get down to the red light and keep on going. It was really funny though, one night they pulled out right in front of the state trooper. He just put his lights on, but you only get 1 in 100, if you're lucky.
I think that's another problem, just having enforcement and people just realizing, I mean, how many troopers, how many sheriffs can you have doing this? Unless maybe they, the troopers can do like a sting operation, how they have,
Right.
we're gonna make certain that, everyone out there knows we're gonna be there, because otherwise, I've seen cars and trucks fly both ways. And I mean fly. 55 is,
And the one thing that, as Tony mentioned, but I think it is true, it so needed repaving, there's no question, but it does really, when people pray for their road to get resurfaced, it does really increase speed.
and at the
It just
top here,
does.
Milltown,
Yeah.
right, just kind of, 2 lanes go into one, and it's a race,
Yeah.
so. Right.
Okay, so, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, supervisors, financial report. Used to be Lynn's favorite subject. I think, what is your favorite subject now?
Oh, I have so many, I can't pick just one. Tony.
Okay, again, I believe we put together a good budget last year. We're holding true to it. There's no really red flags, because last year I did increase a couple lines, especially outside counsel, which I still think is gonna come close again this year, but you can't, prevent lawsuits, so it's tough to judge. The new budget is being prepared right now by myself and Ron. We only have 2 more departments to go, and I'll have it ready shortly. We'll definitely stay within the tax cap. I've been to almost every department. I think I only have Levon's department, and Ron's gonna be doing the highway department. And once those are in, I'll be ready to present it to the board. And other than that, I think things are good.
Are we looking toward having to pay higher garbage collection fees?
Yes, but it's by contract, so it can't be more
So
than, I
that
think,
would be part
I
of
think
it.
3% is the maximum increase we can suffer at this point in time. It's only when you get the new contract like last year, where it's a 5-year contract. But you have to realize that we warned you a while back. As a matter of fact, in November and December, we're gonna have the Carters come in and give a presentation about recycling, because the recycling of materials going to China, who don't want it anymore. And of course, Mr. Trump and China, they were not doing too well there, so it might get even worse. But the recycling costs in this country are gonna skyrocket. So the next contract for garbage could go way out of sight. And I'm not sure how they're gonna handle it now, because we have a contract, can't increase, I think it's more than 3% in any given year. It's gonna be a problem. So recycling and the road maps that you're gonna have to follow, you're gonna have to keep it on your refrigerator, by your garbage can to see what goes where, and it's really gonna be a challenge.
It's gonna change quite a bit, so.
Yeah, big time.
just
So we're gonna have a presentation here both in November, December, to give people fair warning, because last year, when we said no more plastic bags, people went crazy with it. Well, they were jamming the machines, and then this year, there's gonna be another one. So recycling is gonna be a big effort, and it's also gonna become big dollars. So for the contract for this year, it can't be more than 3%, which could be a substantial sum of money. It could be about 60 grand, if not more. 3%, but we can't raise taxes more than 2%. And we have the health insurance as always, and retirement benefits and whatever. It's part of life. We have to deal with it. Okay. Anyone from the public? Town board members?
No, I was gonna say to make sure that if you can vote in the primary, I believe it's Democrats and Conservatives this year to vote, but I can tell them again, since we're gonna meet on the 6th, that everyone who can vote should go vote.
And I think they have the Brewster, the Village of Brewster is hosting. I'll let John,
Oh, yeah, September 9th,
Yes.
Village Fall Festival. It's going to be like Founder's Day, but it's run by Cultural Arts Coalition. this year. So, should be a fun day, I think.
September 9th?
September 9th.
Yes, and the hours have changed. Is it 11 to 4, I think, or
I think they're setting up 9 to 10, maybe, I would think, yeah, 11 to 4.
Well, we can announce it at the next meeting too, but check, because
There's a sign out in the
Yeah.
foyer on the bulletin board.
Yeah, I think Peter
Lynn, a lot
Carey
of
said
times,
11
if you have it on the
4.
6th, I don't know how fast it hits.
Yeah,
cable
no,
or
I know,
anything.
I know.
So,
So,
I think really what everyone just check, in the past, it's been a lot of fun, a lot of
yeah, it's great.
good times, and
It is 11 to 4. So on Sunday, September 9th, is that right, John?
correct.
September
Okay,
9th.
it's 11 to 4, and it is a really nice day, so,
And hopefully it'll be a nice weekend.
yeah. Yeah.
And on a sad note tonight, in closing, Doug Scalpino, longtime resident of, actually Brewster High School graduate, supervisor, town board member at one point in time, died over the, I guess earlier in the week. Tuesday. I believe he was 81 years old?
I think it was 86.
86. Nice guy, great in sports in high school, good man, and unfortunately, he's no longer with us. So I'm going to ask for a moment of silence and close the meeting this evening.
And I just wanted to say, I believe, wasn't he the supervisor?
Yes.
He was the supervisor, he was also the assessor of the town for a while, member of the Board of Assessors.
And he was he was an interesting guy who had a lot of, as I saw in an email, a lot of colorful names for a lot of people. And was pretty much of a straight shooter who had a lot of street smarts. And when I first came to Southeast, he was one of the first people that I ever met in town governance of the town of Southeast. So I think it was quite an experience meeting Dougie. So I'll let Tony start the moment of silence.
Okay, one moment of silence if you would, please. Thank you. Doug was a great golfer, so he'd still be out there today, but he's playing up there in heaven.
Yeah.
Okay, I entertain a motion.
I'll make the motion, we close tonight's meeting.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you all for coming.